There's a tiny thing hanging in the back of your throat that almost everyone notices at least once. The moment people see it, the same question usually pops into their head. Why is that even there? It looks strange, moves around when you talk, and somehow feels important despite most people having absolutely no idea what it actually does. For years, many people assumed it was just another useless leftover from evolution. But the truth is a lot more interesting than that. So what exactly is the purpose of the uvula? This weird little flap has confused people, doctors, and scientists for a very long time. Let's find out the real purpose, right here, on History of Simple Things. The uvula is the small, teardrop-shaped piece of tissue hanging from the soft palate at the back of your mouth. Its name comes from the Latin word meaning little grape, which honestly describes it pretty well. Even though it looks simple, the uvula contains muscle fibers, connective tissue, and glands that help it perform several important tasks. Humans actually have a more developed uvula than most mammals, which is one reason scientists believe it may have played a role in speech development. For years, people assumed it served little purpose, but modern medicine now recognizes that it helps with swallowing, saliva flow, and sound control inside the mouth and throat. One of the uvula's most important jobs happens every time you swallow. As food or liquid moves toward the back of your throat, the soft palate and uvula rise together to help close off the nasal cavity. This prevents food from accidentally traveling upward into your nose instead of downward toward your stomach. Most of the time, this process happens so smoothly that you never notice it. But if you've ever laughed while drinking and suddenly felt liquid burn inside your nose, that's what happens when the seal briefly fails. The uvula works like a small assistant during swallowing, helping guide things in the proper direction and keeping different pathways separated inside the throat. The uvula also contributes to the way humans produce sound. In some languages, including French, Arabic, and German, certain sounds rely heavily on movements near the uvula. These are called uvular consonants, and they involve airflow and vibrations near the back of the throat. Even in English, the uvula still affects resonance and the way sound travels through the mouth. It subtly changes vocal quality by helping shape airflow during speech. Researchers believe the human uvula may have evolved partly to support more advanced communication, especially compared to other mammals. It may not seem important while talking normally, but this tiny structure quietly contributes to the complexity of human speech every single day. Another important function of the uvula is saliva production. Tiny glands inside the uvula release thin saliva that helps keep the throat moist and comfortable. This matters more than most people realize because the back of the throat dries out very easily, especially during sleep, long conversations, or mouth breathing. Moisture helps swallowing feel smooth and also prevents irritation in the throat tissues. Researchers believe the uvula's position helps distribute saliva toward the back of the mouth where lubrication is especially useful. Some people who have their uvula surgically removed even report increased throat dryness afterward. So while it may look insignificant, the uvula quietly helps maintain comfort inside your throat throughout the day. The uvula is also closely connected to the gag reflex. If something unexpected touches the back of your throat, your body immediately reacts to protect the airway from choking. The uvula itself is not entirely responsible for the reflex, but it sits in one of the most sensitive areas of the mouth. That's why touching it with a toothbrush or finger can instantly trigger gagging. Interestingly, food normally does not cause this reaction because your brain prepares the swallowing process in advance, but random objects touching the uvula feel more like threats than food. The reflex is basically your body's emergency defense system activating before something dangerous can move farther into the throat or airway. Even though the uvula is useful, it can sometimes create problems itself. Allergies, infections, snoring, dehydration, or sleep apnea can cause the uvula to swell. When enlarged, it may touch the tongue or throat and lead to coughing, gagging, breathing discomfort, or loud snoring during sleep. Some people naturally have longer uvulas that contribute to airway blockage at night. In serious cases, doctors may remove part or all of the uvula through a procedure called a uvulectomy, often to help treat obstructive sleep apnea. Most people can still function normally without it because surrounding tissues adapt, but doctors usually avoid removing it unless necessary since it still contributes to several useful functions. The uvula is a perfect example of how the human body hides important jobs inside tiny overlooked parts. Most people barely think about it unless they accidentally trigger their gag reflex, but this small flap quietly helps direct food, support speech, lubricate the throat, and protect the airway every single day. It may not be the most famous body part, but it constantly works behind the scenes to make basic activities feel effortless. And honestly, that's what makes the human body so fascinating. Even the weirdest-looking parts often turn out to have surprisingly important purposes once scientists take a closer look. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.